It's Friday night, and I nearly missed Rampage. Why did I nearly miss Rampage, you might ask? Because SmackDown almost put me to sleep. I quickly caught myself. It was during one of the commercial breaks. I snapped out of it. Otherwise, I would have slept right through the show. There wouldn't have been a stream tonight. What a boring show. What a boring nothing show SmackDown turned out to be tonight. And we still have no challenger announced for Roman Reigns. We're about 2 weeks away now from WrestleMania Backlash, their next pay-per-view. Roman will be headlining the show. We don't know yet against who, but from the looks of the show tonight, they had to narrow down the list of suspects. It does look like Drew McIntyre is going to be next in line for Roman Reigns. Roman didn't take too kindly when Sami Zayn told him that Drew was talking shit about him behind the scenes. So I think we're going to get Drew McIntyre against Roman Reigns, not later in the summer, although we probably will get it again then anyway. But it looks like that may be our main event for the Backlash show coming up. I do have to say that one of the great things about this run that Roman Reigns is on right now, this run of dominance, this tribal chief heel run for Roman Reigns, I have not had to, and I was thinking about this earlier, when was the last time that you can remember Michael Cole on television screaming at the top of his lungs, "Here comes the big dog"? Used to drive me nuts. No more big dog. The big dog is in his doghouse in the backyard. We haven't seen him in months. I'm grateful for that. Meanwhile, over on Rampage, Adam Cole qualified for the Owen Hart Cup tournament and gave us a small preview of the Forbidden Door show that AEW announced earlier this week, only a couple of days ago. And my God, people's heads are exploding over this show. This announcement has driven them absolutely out of their minds. It is comical to see. I derive great pleasure out of seeing their heads explode over this announcement. All of a sudden, I didn't know these people were so concerned about AEW. My God, how are they going to grow their audience? All of a sudden, these people who couldn't give two shits about AEW are so concerned about the AEW fan base. Oh my God. But that's for Sunday. Boy, do I have a lot to get off my chest about that on the podcast on Sunday. We'll save that for the weekend. Jade Cargill, she successfully defended her TBS championship tonight in the main event on TNT. This is your SmackDown Rampage recap for Friday night, April. I'm skipping to the summer already, man. I'm ready for the warmer weather. I'm ready. I'm ready for beach weather. I'm ready for beach balls and sandals and shorts and bathing suits. I got no place to go, but I'm already thinking of the summertime. April 22nd, 2022. I am the Solomonster. I need this weekend. I'm so glad the weekend is here. I need this weekend. I still have work to do, but I need this weekend. I am hoping to finally this weekend sit down and watch The Batman on HBO Max. And I've had many people tell me that I need to set aside about 7 hours or so for this movie. No, it is a long movie, but I am hoping I can finally sit down and watch it this weekend. Hit that like button. Do me that favor if nothing else. Hit that like button on this video. Subscribe to the channel. Memberships are open if you want to become a channel member. And super chats are open. And we will take some time a little bit later on to go through the super chats. Right, Solomonster ready for his bikini body. That bikini body, you got to start getting ready now. You got to hit the gym. You got to start training and getting in summer shape. You know, it's almost that time. It's almost that time. It's very exciting. So there is a European tour next week. I don't know how many dates, but WWE has some European dates coming up next week. And so they taped not one, but 2 episodes of SmackDown. In fact, they're probably taping right now. 2 episodes of SmackDown tonight. And so that's just a warning. We're not going to get into any spoilers here, but the SmackDown, if you are allergic to spoilers, they will be floating around for the next week. So just be aware of that SmackDown next week is a taped show, probably in progress right now. SmackDown tonight opened with Adam Pearce in the ring to introduce the SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair and her challenger at WrestleMania Backlash, Ronda Rousey, for the contract signing for their match. They, of course, are going to be having an I Quit match. Yes, Austin, I know. That's a great point. You know, as boring as that show was tonight, how bad do you feel for the crowd in the building? I don't even know if they understood what they were getting themselves into when they bought their ticket to go to the show. They have to sit through not one but two of these. They have to sit through 2 SmackDowns, 4 hours of SmackDown. Those poor people have to sit through. Where are they, in Albany? I think they were in Albany tonight. They're in New York. Now that's upstate. That's not really close by to where I am, but God, those poor people. 4 hours of this shit they have to sit through. I could barely tolerate 2 hours tonight. This segment didn't help matters. Pierce went to start the signing, and then he realized there's no contract on the table. And so he motioned to the back, and out comes Drew Gulak, bringing the contract down with him to the ring. They said he is now interning to become Adam Pearce's assistant, so I guess the interviewer position last week didn't work out too well for him. And so now he's going to be basically Adam Pearce's bitch on television every week. Fans chanted, "You tapped out," at Charlotte, who again said that she never tapped out. She was just adjusting her bra in the match at WrestleMania. She took the time to explain the rules of an I Quit match, which I'm very grateful for. I had no idea how an I Quit match works. I'm glad she took the time to walk us step by step through how an I Quit match exactly works. The back and forth here with these two was, Charlotte was constantly interrupting her, no matter what Ronda said, and talking is not Ronda's strong suit. So I didn't know what to expect here. But every time Ronda would say something, Charlotte would, like a child, she would interrupt and say, "I won at WrestleMania." Was it "I won" or "I beat you"? Like, "I beat you at WrestleMania. I beat you at WrestleMania," over and over again. This is what we went back and forth with here between these two. Very annoying. Ronda went to go sign the contract. Charlotte, though, overturned the table, grabbed a kendo stick that she apparently had hidden herself, I guess, underneath the table at some point. Ronda took it away from her, started wailing away on her until Drew Gulak grabbed a hold of Ronda to restrain her. Charlotte was able to escape, and Ronda then proceeded to pick up Drew Gulak and hit Piper's Pit. She locked on the armbar as she signed the contract. She had him in the armbar position and said, "Where's the pen?" So he reached into his pocket and pulled out the pen. She signed the contract and then let him go. This was not exactly riveting television here. At least Drew Gulak is still employed. It didn't look good for him last week. It still doesn't look good for him. I still don't think Drew Gulak has a very long-term future in this company. But for the time being, they're going to try him out in different roles. This might be the role for him right now. He'll be the runt for the authority figures on this show. There was no Sonya Deville tonight, by the way. Only Adam Pearce. And he'll be his goofy assistant for the time being. By the way, they're doing the Beat the Clock gimmick next week. They're going to have Charlotte and Ronda in separate Beat the Clock matches. I hate this gimmick. I've always hated this gimmick. I've been consistent in that. If you've been listening to me and my podcast for any length of time, you go back 5, 6, 7 years, I'm talking about Beat the Clock matches. I just don't like it. I've never seen the appeal of this gimmick. I think it is stupid. So we're getting a Beat the Clock challenge next week. What does it mean? What does it mean? If Ronda beats her opponent quicker than Charlotte can beat hers, who cares? Who cares? It's a way to kill TV time. I know why they do it. They got to come up with ideas to fill time on television, but it's just such a stupid gimmick. Anyway, we had Xavier Woods one-on-one against Butch. Somebody smartened up this week. Had Pat McAfee refer to Butch on commentary as the rabid wildebeest, as opposed to last week when he referred to him as the rabid Wolverine. Probably not the memories that you want to jog in people's minds during the show, so I don't know if that was something that they made a conscious effort to change or he did that on his own, but now Butch is the rabid wildebeest. We'll see if they keep up with that nickname. This went longer than their last match, and we saw a little bit of Pete Dunne here in this match. We saw a lot of that joint manipulation that Pete Dunne, was a staple of his matches in NXT UK and NXT and on the Indies. Like their first match, though, he got rolled up by Woods' new finish, the Backwoods, and got pinned. And by the way, when I mentioned the Backwoods last week, when he first used the move, he's trying to get that over as his new finish, I did not know the meaning behind it. I thought it was just kind of a cool name that he came up with. His name is Xavier Woods. He's sneaking up on the guy and rolling him up. He calls it the Backwoods. I said, all right, that's kind of a clever name. I didn't know there was another connotation behind that name. You have smartened me up to the double meaning of what that is. But anyway, so again, he rolls him up and he pins him. And still, they treat Butch like a child. Even Michael Cole is saying on commentary, whenever he kind of throws a hissy fit, he's acting like a child, like a petulant child. So I've heard people say that he's a child, that he's like a pet, like a dog. Call him whatever you want to. This is the gimmick, This is now what Pete Dunne is doing on television. He's like a dog with rabies. You can't control him. He's out of his mind. He's overly aggressive. The aggression is okay. I don't necessarily mind that so much, but just the way they portray him on television is it is what it is. He had another meltdown this is the gimmick now. It's not even the fact that he lost. The fact that he lost now, and he is still winless since he has been called up to the main roster, that almost isn't even the point. It's kind of irrelevant. Because the story they're telling is that every time he loses, he snaps. And he beats somebody up. He runs away. That's why I said he's like a dog. Last week, they were in the back doing a promo, and in the middle of it, he disappeared. And Ridge Holland says to Sheamus, we lost Butch. So, call him a dog or a child. There's plenty of parents who have been in the supermarket or in some kind of a department store and they can't control their kid and their kid wanders off. Oh my God, we lost little Timmy. Where did Timmy go? Where did he go? That's what this was. So little Timmy again lost his mind when the match was over. He hopped the barricade, he grabbed a security guard, threw the security guard over the barricade, and Michael Cole freaked out. And then Butch wandered off into the crowd while Sheamus and Ridge Holland stood in the ring trying to find, motion for him to come back and looking for him. Where'd he go? And he left through the crowd. They lost him again. They're going to have to get a leash. They're going to have to put Butch on a leash and pack some doggy treats for him when he starts to get a little hyper. Maybe he'll lift his leg when he comes down to the ring. Get him a scratching post. Backstage, they showed Aaliyah. I almost forgot about her. Aaliyah has been missing in action. We haven't seen Aaliyah in what feels like months. She got a little bit of a push when she first got called up, and the fans actually seemed to kind of be into her. Remember when she got that shock win? I think it might have been before Survivor Series. What the hell has this woman done since then? Was she even in the Royal Rumble? I don't remember. If she was, that may have been the last time we saw her. That was in January. So I don't know where she's been, but we saw Aaliyah. There she was in the back. She was having a conversation with Ricochet, and she was very impressed by Ricochet's win last week when he retained his title over Jinder Mahal. In fact, not only was she impressed by this win, but she, and I'm quoting here, she referred to Ricochet's win last week over Jinder Mahal. They had a 3-minute match for the Intercontinental title, and Aaliyah referred to it as incredible. It was an incredible match that Ricochet had last week with Jinder Mahal. Somebody buy this woman a Peacock subscription, please. I'm begging you. Ricochet said that he wants to be the greatest ever. He wants to be Ricochet. Look, Ricochet has not had a lot of luck on the main roster. And all of a sudden, Ricochet is getting a little bit of a push, right? He's getting a little bit of a push because he's the number 2 babyface. He is the de facto number 2 babyface on this show by virtue of injuries and people leaving and the fact that they just haven't done a very good job of, lining up a good roster of healthy baby faces on SmackDown, Ricochet is considered internally, supposedly, to be the number 2 babyface, which he should be because he has the secondary title on that show. He is the Intercontinental Champion. And Ricochet said that he is hoping to become the greatest ever to hold the Intercontinental Championship. Look, it's good to have goals. Everybody should have goals in life. That is Ricochet's goal. He wants to become the greatest ever to be the Intercontinental Champion. Hey, look, there was a time where I wanted to become a lifeguard on Baywatch. But sometimes you got to settle for things in life. You got to settle for less in life. That's just the way life is. Now you know why I'm so excited about the summertime coming. Once upon a time, I dreamed of being a lifeguard on Baywatch. Pamela Anderson running down the beach. Who's the other one? It was another, what was her name? There was another actress on the show who kind of became popular for a while, and then she dropped off the face of the earth. It wasn't Gina, it was the other one. I forgot her name. But anyway, the name's not important. You get the point. Jinder Mahal and Shanky all of a sudden walked up to Ricochet, and Jinder told Ricochet, hey, if you're such a fighting champion, then you'll put your title on the line. You won't have a problem defending your title again. And Ricochet agreed, and all of a sudden Shanky stepped in front of Jinder and took the challenge for himself, and that did not make Jinder very happy. So we're going to get Shanky and Ricochet for the Intercontinental title. Well, technically tonight, it's being taped, but that'll be on the show next week. Yes, Yasmin Bleeth, thank you. It was on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't remember her name. What the hell ever happened to her? I don't hear her name mentioned at all anymore. I mean, I haven't in years. Even Pamela Anderson, you still hear her name from time to time. What happened to Yasmin Bleeth? Casey is envisioning me running in slow motion down the beach. I'm telling you, I used to dream about that. You know? Replace David Hasselhoff. I mean, if somebody were actually drowning on the beach, they'd be fucked because I wouldn't be able to save them. But that's beside the point. You know? It's kind of less important. By the way, so I mentioned Aaliyah, right? I mentioned Aaliyah missing in action on TV. And I asked the question on Sunday. You heard the podcast on Sunday because I didn't do a live stream last Friday. Last Friday night, we weren't here, right? Because I was at the Hog Show. So I reviewed SmackDown. I talked about SmackDown on episode 752 on Sunday. At the very beginning of that review, I asked the question. I said, by the way, I was just thinking, whatever happened to Xia Li? Just the thought that popped into my head, I realized I haven't seen this woman in months. And again, I don't recall her being in the Women's Royal Rumble, which would be very odd if she wasn't because they needed women for that Royal Rumble. Why would she not be in there? I don't remember her being in there. And she's made very few appearances since then, but she disappeared. She was starting to get a push on TV and then she vanished. And I just thought to myself, what happened to Xia Li? She's not hurt. Where'd she go? Lo and behold, I'm watching SmackDown tonight, and who do I see on my television? In the back, Xia Li. Xia Li lives. She's still here. She's still employed. And there she is, in the back, in a 20-second pre-taped promo. If you blink, you missed it. It's like one of these backstage segments on Rampage. Those are even worse. You blink, you're going to miss the whole damn thing. They don't give it any time. But there she is, she's in the back, and she says that she was the protector. But now, she's had a change of heart. She said now she sees no one worthy of her protection, and so going forward, she is going to protect herself. Unless she got that sweet creative control clause in her contract, and I don't think she's got the pull to be able to do that, then I don't think there's a whole lot this woman is going to be able to do to protect herself. In fact, after watching this segment tonight, it looks like protecting herself is a failed mission. So let's evaluate, let's very quickly take a look here at Xia Li's amazing run on the main roster so far. They ran those great comic book vignettes. I actually praised that. I thought those were very well done. They were very well produced. And they were an effective way, I thought, at explaining her backstory and the backstory of this new character that they created for her, right? So they ran those vignettes on television for weeks before she ever set foot in the ring. So we had those great vignettes. Then they debuted her on TV. Then they gave her, at most, it felt like a couple of matches. Then she disappeared again, I guess, because they were going into WrestleMania season, I guess, and she wasn't on the WrestleMania card. So she wasn't a priority, and so, poof, she disappeared. She vanished. Only now, tonight, here on this show, to reappear in a quick 20-second pre-tape segment where she abandoned the entire gimmick. They turned her heel and had her abandon the gimmick that she only first started with on television a few months ago. It's over. Just like that. She got sick of protecting other people, I guess. She had one feud that I remember with Natalya. That was it. That is all this woman ever did. Apparently that disgusted her enough where she decided, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to protect anybody else. I'm going to look out for myself. And so the protector is no more. I'm sure that the reason that this was done was because they realized that Ronda Rousey, when she beat Charlotte Flair to win the SmackDown Women's title, is going to need people to beat as the champion. So Xia Li, they turned her heel. She'll probably get, dispatched at some point by SmackDown Women's Champion Ronda Rousey, and that'll be the end of her. But they couldn't even be bothered to shoot an angle and explain the heel turn on television. She just showed up and said, you know what? I'm not the protector anymore. And that was the end. And then they just moved on to the next segment. So there you go. There you go. Xia Li, at least she's back. We'll see for how long. But I would not be at all surprised if part of the mindset here was Ronda's going to beat Charlotte, and Ronda is going to need some, people to kind of mow down on this show before she gets to the bigger names down the road. So let's turn her heel. Surprised they didn't just throw Shotzi on television and do something with her and start getting her primed to get beat by Ronda Rousey. She's been off television too. Turned her heel, which was the worst thing you could do because Shotzi Blackheart was a big babyface on NXT. She's a naturally likable persona on television. They turned her heel, and then they took her off television. This is a recurring pattern on this show. So when I hear from people, it's like, they keep calling up these women from NXT, and not all. A lot of them just don't get over, or it doesn't work out. They're not stars, or I hear all these different things for why these things don't work. And sometimes you don't really have to overthink these things. You just see it for what it is. People get called up when they don't have a plan in place, and that's exactly what happened here. I mean, they gave enough thought to put those vignettes together, but they didn't have any plan. They didn't have any real plan for these people, including her when they called her up. Aaliyah, that's another one. They just said, hey, we need a new face. We need some new blood on the show. Just call them on up. I can remember when Triple H many years ago, it really wasn't even that long ago, but a number of years ago, Triple H said on one of those NXT conference calls he used to do, he doesn't want any of these NXT people to get called up unless they have, I think he said like a 6-month plan for them. And I should play the laughing soundbite again because it's such a fucking laugh to even think about that. That they think, 6 weeks ahead, let alone 6 months. In a perfect world, he's absolutely right. When you call somebody up from NXT, there should be a plan in place for what you intend to do with them for the next 3, 6, 9 months. Even if you don't have every little thing mapped out, have a sense. We're going to call this guy up. We're going to call this woman up. And here's what we're going to do with them. And then we'll slot them here in this column on the babyface side, or we'll slot them here on the heel side. And map it out. I understand television goes quickly, and they have a lot of television to produce every single week. And then people get hurt, and it throws their plans into chaos. I mean, shit happens. I get that. But, we hear about how there's this whole room full of writers. There's this army of writers that they have. All these writers and these producers. How hard is it to come up with some kind of plan for what you intend to do with this person when you call them up? Somebody actually looked at Pete Dunne and said, you know what? We got a great idea. We'll call him Butch, and he'll be like an angry little child. Whatever. Why do I even bother? Why do I even bother to explain these things? But you know what I'm saying. And you know what I'm saying is true, because it makes sense. We had Ludwig. We had Ludwig or Ludwig Borg, or whatever you want to call him. We had Ludwig out next to introduce Walter. I shall still call him Walter, who murdered another jobber this week. This guy, Teddy Goods, was his victim this week. Walter mauled him for a bit. He applied a sleeper, followed by hitting the power bomb and the deep pin for the 3 count. This was exactly what it should have been. Yeah, this is a way that you can build Walter up. You send him out there. You have him mow guys down, murder them, leave them laid out. Week after week, at some point, either he's going to pick a fight with somebody or somebody with a name is going to pick a fight with him, and you go from there. In the meantime, this was the perfect squash. Exactly what it needed to be. Did it get over in front of the live audience? Not really, because it didn't seem like they really gave a shit about this. But this is the period of time now where they have to educate people about what this guy can do. He's still fresh. He's still new. This was only his 2nd match on TV. Take your time with him. Let him kill a few people. They're building him up. It's the right way to build somebody up. At least he's winning his matches. We could say that. At least he's won so far. He hasn't gone in there and gotten rolled up, gotten distracted by someone's theme music. So at least we can say that. In the back, Matt Riddle and Randy Orton. We're talking about Riddle's match later tonight with Jey Uso. And Drew McIntyre showed up. Riddle acknowledged the past problems between McIntyre and Randy Orton. Of course, they feuded for many months back when McIntyre was WWE champion. Riddle and Orton were going to be lumberjacks in the main event later with McIntyre and Sami Zayn. And Riddle told Orton, don't worry, you don't have to wear flannel. McIntyre said he's cool with Orton because Orton stood up to the bloodline, and anybody who stands up to the bloodline is okay in his book. Again, the first little tease of them building to something with McIntyre and Roman Reigns. Orton said everything is cool as far as he's concerned with him and McIntyre. And they all walked off. And then in the background, we see as he rises up, he was hiding behind something, was Sami Zayn, who heard the entire conversation. He had a big smile on his face. He was plotting. We didn't know for what, but he was plotting. We would find out later in the show. So ahead of the winner-take-all tag team unification match, tag team title unification match at Backlash, we had one half of the Raw tag team champions, Matt Riddle, one-on-one against one half of the SmackDown tag team champions, main event Jey Uso, who was not in the main event tonight. We got Riddle against Jimmy Uso last week, so this week we got Jey in the match. Jey gave Riddle a Randy Orton back suplex on the announce desk ahead of the commercial break and pointed over at Randy Orton when he did it. Riddle hit the floating bro later on for a near fall, and then hit a draping DDT on Jey, while Orton gave Jimmy on the outside a back suplex onto the announce desk. Riddle went for the RKO, Jey avoided it, and hit a cool-looking pop-up neck breaker. I thought that was a very cool move. Riddle fought back, hit a running knee. Jey came back with a super kick, went up top for the Uso splash, but on his way down, Riddle got the knees up, and he rolled him up for the win. The second roll-up win of the night so far. They cut to the back to show a disappointed Roman Reigns watching as his cousin lost yet another match in his dressing room. He was very disappointed. This was a fun match. This was actually the best thing on the entire show. The fans were into it. I was into it. It was cool to see these two go back and forth and have what I thought was a fun match. Two guys who can go. You know, Jey Uso is very good. Riddle, I've always said Riddle is very good. I was saying that back in NXT. I was saying that before they even signed him, when I was wondering, why the hell haven't they signed Matt Riddle? for years on the podcast because they stayed away from him for a while. I think a lot of it had to do with the weed stuff, which is funny now because this week they released a 420 t-shirt for RK Bro. You saw all over the crowd. Those guys are going to clean up nicely on that t-shirt. You saw RK Bro 420 shirts all over the crowd tonight. It was like a one-day only item that they put for sale in honor of 420 this week. They embrace it now. But years ago, whatever it was preventing Riddle from being signed. And I just, at the time, I didn't understand it. You know, even New Japan, I thought, this is when New Japan was hotter at the time than they are at the moment. And I said he would, again, some of the talent that he could, work with there would have been perfect. They don't really have much of a tolerance for that sort of thing over there. And I think that had a lot to do with why New Japan never showed an interest in Matt Riddle. Or maybe they didn't. Ultimately, he chose not to go, but I just thought it was very strange. And then finally, this might have been around the time that either AEW just started up or was about to start up. All of a sudden, WWE showed an interest in Matt Riddle, and they signed him. And I thought that was very interesting. But he's always been very good. He plays the goofy guy on TV in WWE, but when he goes in there and works, he's very good. So not a surprise to see these two work well together. But I will say this, 2 weeks in a row now of Uso losses on this show. And there's still 2 weeks to go. I'm sure the Usos will get their revenge on RK Bro in some way. They kind of did at the end of the show tonight, I guess. But even without the losses, I would say the favorites going into Backlash right now to unify those titles are the Usos. It's the whole point of the storyline. Roman Reigns wants all the gold in the bloodline. And they've done nothing on television to make me think any differently. So unless they plan on giving us some kind of a cop-out finish at Backlash, which is very possible, and we end up not having a title unification, if those titles are unified, it's going to be the Usos who are going to be unifying them and bringing them into the bloodline. Kayla Braxton was in the ring in the next segment to interview the women's tag team champions, Naomi and Sasha Banks. Yeah, David, I couldn't remember. I wasn't sure if Riddle was signed before AEW was officially announced, but I think even when they signed him, it might have been the summer of 2018. There were already rumors and talk of something going on. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if that sort of lit a fire under them to say, well, maybe now would be a good time to sign this guy instead of him going somewhere else. But you're right. If it was the summer of 2018, I don't believe the official announcement, the press conference. I think the AEW press conference, I want to say, was January of 2019. My timeline is correct on that. But Kayla was in the ring with the women's tag team champions. They talked about not having any competition left in the tag team division. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, that would imply that there is a tag team division. There is no tag team division. There's a couple of teams they've thrown together, one of which just broke up on Monday. That does not make a division. So, of course, they've mowed down whoever was there. Yes, of course, they've beaten them. It's not exactly all that impressive of a feat for these two. Natalya and Shayna Baszler interrupted. Natty said they're the two women that they have not beaten yet. Baszler promised to stretch and snap every bone in their bodies. Baszler shoved Sasha, and Naomi held her back, and they all stood around awkwardly, like they were waiting for the segment to end and trying to stretch for time. I don't know what was going on there, but this served one purpose. The only purpose this served was to set up the next challengers for the women's tag team titles, and to that end, it accomplished that. Not very interesting, but it served its purpose. They aired a video, by the way. Now they mentioned Sasha Banks. It reminds me. There was a video. I don't know what news outlet put this out on their channel, but some magazine maybe or pop culture website. They did a quick 1-minute segment. It's Sasha Banks sitting at a table with a bowl of watermelon covered in mustard. The point is, I guess this is some kind of a TikTok thing going around, which is why I'm not on TikTok, by the way. Shout out to DP who just DP who just subscribed to the channel. Welcome. Jesus. So I guess this is some kind of a TikTok phenomenon that's going on where people are putting mustard on watermelon, which sounds fucking disgusting. So they had Sasha Banks was going to eat a watermelon after pouring mustard on it. And I watched this earlier. This is how I spent 60 seconds of my day today. And of course, she bit into it, and immediately she was gagging and saying, this is disgusting. And she made a comment and said she blamed white people for this. Now, I have to say, as a white person, I would never in my life even think of putting mustard anywhere near watermelon. So don't go blaming us for this. I don't know who started this bullshit, but mustard on watermelon, I take no credit for that. Don't blame me. Things people come up with. It's like the whole pineapple on pizza thing. It's the same thing. Whoever came up with that is a sadist. So they aired a video package for Raquel Gonzalez, who is now Raquel Rodriguez. It's her new name. She makes her in-ring debut on SmackDown next week. The one thing I will say that they are doing or attempting to do, maybe not in a very good way, but they're at least trying here on this show. If you look over the last few weeks, Butch, Gunther. Again, I didn't say it was all good. Butch, Gunther, Madcap Moss now is getting a babyface singles push, and now they're bringing up Raquel. They're trying to get some new faces over on this show. Now, they may not be successful with all of them. Not everybody is going to be a success story. But there is a noticeable effort to get some new blood on this show. It doesn't help that this show has largely been boring, but they are at least making something of an attempt. Madcap Moss, speaking of which, one-on-one with Angel Garza of Los Lotharios. We had loud, piped-in cheers for Madcap as he came out for his entrance. And then as we hear all the fake cheering, the camera cut to a different angle, and you could see everybody in the background sitting on their hands. What a wonderful thing to be able to manipulate the crowd reactions. And if you're going to do it, at least make it believable. Nobody gave a shit when Madcap Moss came out. They would have you believe they did, but they did not. And by the way, it continued for the match. People sat on their hands pretty much for the entire match. Humberto was out there. He held on to Moss's leg at one point. That allowed Angel to briefly gain control. What is that at the beginning of his entrance? Is that what he says? Joke. He goes like joke, joke, joke. Like that's his signature at the beginning of Madcap's theme. Everything about this character is a fucking fail. From that to the shorts and the suspend. He looks like he should be at Oktoberfest somewhere. Just put the hat on him. We have two people wrestling on this show with suspenders on. Butch has suspenders too. What is it with the suspenders? So Moss made a comeback. He rocked Angel with a running shoulder tackle before hitting the punchline for the win. That's his neckbreaker finish. After the match, Happy Corbin laid him out with the End of Days and walked off with the Andre the Giant Battle Royal Trophy. He stole the trophy, which in fairness, Corbin's name is on it because he won the Battle Royal once before, so his name is on the trophy. But apparently, this is Corbin's gimmick now. This is Corbin's gimmick now on this show. He's a thief. He stole Drew McIntyre's sword. Here on this show, he stole Madcap's trophy. Every week, he steals minutes away from my life that I can never get back. The guy is a thief. It's like the new Repo Man. Put the little mask around his eyes. He could be the new Repo Man. In the back, we are finding ourselves in the Bloodline locker room. Roman Reigns is there. The Usos, Paul Heyman, Jey Uso is apologizing for losing. All of a sudden, Paul Heyman goes, "We have a guest. It's Sami Zayn." And Sami Zayn comes walking in to Roman's locker room, and Sami said that he overheard Drew McIntyre earlier talking with RK Bro, and he was insulting Roman's entire family. This whole segment was basically just Sami Zayn sucking up to Roman Reigns. And now he's lying and making stuff up about how Drew was talking smack about Roman and his fan. And you would think that Roman, the Roman Reigns character should be smart enough to see right through the bullshit, but he actually believed what Sami was saying. So he was kind of gullible in this segment, which I think actually kind of goes against the whole Roman Reigns character. Now, maybe he'll come on TV next week and say, I didn't believe a word that Sami said, but it doesn't matter because, I don't like you, to Drew. But the way they played this off, Roman believed him and he wasn't very happy about it. But Sami said he needs to win tonight to regain his respect, which he lost by losing to Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania. He asked Roman for his help. He acknowledged him. He said he's very willing to help out in return. He thinks he could be a valuable ally to Roman. And Sami took his leave at that point. And once he left, Roman said that he doesn't like people on his show running their mouths about him. And he told the Usos, make sure these people keep my name out of their mouths. We got part 3 of the Lacey Evans story, talking about her difficult childhood and her upbringing. And she talked about how the more money her father brought in money, brought in drugs, the worse his alcohol problem became, the more he drank. She didn't have her mother to support her or help her get ready for her prom. And she said that she learned to take care of herself at a very young age. She does her own makeup even today before her matches. She does her own makeup. WWE has their own makeup people. She does her own makeup. She's like Sting. And she does it because she learned if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. Which is exactly why I do this podcast solo. I work better alone. She started learning to wrestle at the age of 15. She had no support at home, though. She had to believe in herself, and after all the work, she would go home and find her father high and passed out. Everything that she went through prepared her for her future. Now, if you remember that first segment from a few weeks ago, I was very complimentary of part 1 of the Lacey Evans story when she was reintroduced on television, and I thought she came across as genuine. And I thought that it was the right approach to take and that she came off very well in that first segment. And then we had part 2, which also, was good, but maybe not as good as part 1. This week we had part 3. This is where this jumped the shark for me. This felt very forced. This felt different. This hit different for me than that first segment did. First of all, she's repeating some of the same stuff that we've already heard. But this now, it's not coming off the same way to me. Now it's coming off, frankly, almost like they're just exploiting the story. I think you could tell the story, which is a powerful one, but now it just comes across like, all right, this is the 3rd week in a row now. And even the way that she delivered her lines here and everything, it just did not come across the same way to me. It comes across now like they're just exploiting the story for the sake of exploiting it. So I wasn't a fan of this, but I think these have run their course. I think it's time now for her to return to TV. Let's see how the fans take to her as a babyface. It's going to be a new role for her. They could definitely use a new babyface, a new, star to bring back and plug into that SmackDown women's division. We don't know when Bayley is going to be back, although she'll probably be back as a heel. When Asuka comes back, she may not go to Raw. Maybe they'll put Asuka on SmackDown. She could be a babyface there. But the two of them are still missing, so I think it's time to get her back on television in the ring and, kind of put these segments to rest. Main event on this show was Drew McIntyre against Sami Zayn in a Lumberjack match. Orton and Riddle were among the Lumberjacks, as were Sheamus and Ridge Holland. No Butch. Remember, they lost him, so there was no Butch. Shinsuke Nakamura, Jinder Mahal, Shanky, Mansoor, the Viking Jobbers, they were all out there. Usos came out last, so it looked, and Sami was very happy to see the Usos because he thought that Roman had took him up on his offer. Bell rings. Sami jumped out of the ring. The babyface brigade of Lumberjacks threw him back inside. Zayn sent Drew out to the floor. The heels beat him down before throwing him back in. And now we had a face-off between the babyface Lumberjacks and the heel Lumberjacks. Sheamus and Ridge Holland, they took some shots at Drew, threw him back into the ring after he got thrown out. And McIntyre was setting up for the Claymore kick. Sami rolled out of the ring. And RK Bro tried to throw Sami back in, but here come the Usos over to rock them with super kicks. Sami tried to run away again when all the Lumberjacks started fighting each other. Oh, there it is. People were asking about it. There's Solomonster from 2K22 beating the crap out of Hulk Hogan. Man, I am really beating the shit out of him. If you want to see more of that, that's in the most recent Sound of Gamer My Rise, episode 3, that went up earlier this week. You can see me kick Hulk Hogan's ass. I mean, what's better than that, right? See me kicking Hulk Hogan's ass in Japan. Marcus, it took Marcus this long to realize that there's a little change on the wall behind me. I wasn't going to say anything. I wanted to see how long it would take for somebody to pick up on that. Yes, we have the official Solomonster custom championship belt right over my shoulder. Very proud to display that. A big shout out to Wrestle Rumble and Steve Mello for the design. Anyway, Sami tried to run away again when all the Lumberjacks started fighting each other. Drew caught him, though, brought him back into the ring. Sheamus, Jinder, Shanky attacked Drew, rolled him back in. Everybody continued to fight on the outside. But they all bunched up together in a pile. All the heels, all the Lumberjacks, they all bunched up together in a pile. So you knew exactly what was coming. And Drew hit the ropes, and he flew out of the ring onto the pile with a running dive. Sami saw this as an opportunity to run away again, and he did. He went into the crowd, and he was running up the staircase, and out comes Adam Pearce. And mind you, the match is still in progress. Out comes Adam Pearce to announce that next week there will be no place for Sami to run because it's going to once again, for I guess this is the third or fourth week in a row, it will be Drew McIntyre one-on-one with Sami Zayn in a steel cage match. And there will be nowhere for Sami Zayn to run. Jinder and Shanky, they attacked Drew 2-on-1 in the ring. Drew made his own comeback. He took out Jinder with the Claymore kick. Why, if Adam Pearce comes out, and Adam Pearce is the authority figure on television, and he even said, like, he thought or he knew that Sami might try this again, why would Adam Pearce not order Sami Zayn to come back to the ring? You got 10 seconds to get your ass back in the ring, or I'm going to fine you, or you're going to be indefinitely suspended. Or whatever the punishment is. No, he lets him leave, and the match just ends. We had no finish. We had no resolution to this match. This Lumberjack match just ended. It was over. It's like that AJ Styles Damian Priest match on Raw last week, where the lights went out, and then this blue light came on, and then the match just ended. There was no finish. They went to commercial, they came back, and the show went on. The matches on these shows are so insignificant, they mean nothing. The television matches every week mean absolutely nothing. They have no meaning, they have no value, they have rarely any value or any kind of importance. This is what they have conditioned the fans to think, is that the matches you see on TV don't matter. Because they'll just end and they'll move on to something else. It's a means to an end. It gets them through whatever story they're telling into whatever the pay-per-view match is going to be. But this is another example of why matches just don't mean anything on TV. But just the logic of it. If Adam Pearce can come out and announce another match for next week, why couldn't he just order Sami back in the ring? It's so stupid. It's ridiculous. This is your main event that you set on your show. And Pearce just lets him go. So a lame finish to our so-called main event. A very lame finish to a very dull show. This was a boring show. I mean, I enjoyed Riddle and Jey Uso, but this show is fucking boring. And still, with 2 weeks to go now until WrestleMania Backlash, no sign of an opponent for Roman Reigns. They had the tease last week with Shinsuke Nakamura. Or it might have been, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? These shows all blend together now. because Roman missed a week. It might have been 2 weeks ago then, because I don't think Roman was on the show last week. But, we had that segment, and it kind of looked like maybe that was going to be the beginning of a setup for a match between them. But Nakamura came out of that segment looking like such a fucking jabron. I almost don't even think you could possibly even do that match. He didn't even fight back. He got laid out and just laid there. So outside of that, there's been no hint. There's been no tease. Brock Lesnar is not going to be on that show. That feud, thankfully, now appears to be over, finally. And there was nothing with Nakamura this week. He was a lumberjack in the main event. But that's why I said at the beginning of the stream tonight, by process of elimination, Drew McIntyre looks to be the next challenger for Roman Reigns and the championship. I think it's still a match that they could come back with at SummerSlam, or they could come back with it at the UK Stadium show in September, but September is a long way off. The fact is, they don't have enough people to get them to September if they want to hold off on doing that match for the first time. So they could still do it, but by then it'll be the second time, third time. I even said on the podcast when I was talking about the stadium show, they're probably going to want to get some kind of a celebrity or a big name on there. Tyson Fury, I think, has his fight. Is it tomorrow? I think he's fighting tomorrow night. And I believe he has said that this is either going to be it, or if he wins, he's going to retire. I absolutely see him doing more with WWE in the future. If they're coming to the UK for a big stadium show later this year, and he is officially retired by that point, he could retire as the heavyweight champion of the world. He and Drew have gone back and forth on social media and in the media in the past about wanting to wrestle each other. It's always possible that they could have a match like that in mind for Drew. Maybe he's not going to compete for the title. Maybe he's going to face off with someone like Tyson Fury. But you look at that roster. Even if you wanted to hold off until SummerSlam, SummerSlam is at the end of July. So they have Backlash. They have Money in the Bank. Is there a June paper? I don't know if there's a June pay-per-view in WWE. Hell in a Cell. Might be Hell in a Cell. What do you do? If you don't go to Drew now, then what do you do in the meantime? There's nobody else. There's really nobody else worthy of that spot. I mean, they have really put themselves in a terrible position here by not preparing a couple of strong baby faces outside of Drew on the SmackDown brand. This is what ends up happening. 2 weeks away from the pay-per-view, and we have no idea who he's going to be wrestling. But I think it's going to be Drew McIntyre. So that was your SmackDown review. And now we switch on over to Rampage. We flip on over to TNT. Now on Wednesday, AEW made the announcement of the Forbidden Door. This was Tony Khan's huge announcement. There will be a bonus pay-per-view. This is not replacing another pay-per-view. This is not their, one of their big quarterly pay-per-views that they do. They're having a bonus show on June 26th in Chicago at the United Center, which will sell out, called Forbidden Door, a joint super show with the stars of AEW facing off against the stars of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I'm going to have a lot more to say about this and the reaction to this Sunday on episode 753. But tonight, they opened the show with a little preview of what's to come at the Forbidden Door show, with Adam Cole going one-on-one in an Owen Hart Cup qualifying match with New Japan Pro Wrestling Stone Pitbull himself, Tomohiro Ishii. That was our opening match tonight. No entrances. This is the case with Rampage every week. They go right in, they call it the fastest hour in wrestling. They go right into it, ding, 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 and we're underway. And this is a case where I think they really should have had entrances, because if nothing, and Ishii doesn't have any kind of elaborate entrance or anything people sing along with the way they do Kaza ni Nare when Minoru Suzuki comes out. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But I think giving time for an entrance here at the beginning would have at least given Excalibur more time to really say a few words about Ishii. I mean, I know they're playing to an audience that a lot of people know who Ishii is. And even some hardcore fans maybe who aren't as familiar with Ishii. At least take a few moments to really, and he said something briefly about him, but it wasn't enough. Or put together a small 30-second video package with some highlights and New Japan footage of him in the ring. They didn't do anything. they just opened the show and here's Ishii, one-on-one against Adam Cole. And I thought that was not the way that they should have opened this match here. Rocky Romero and Orange Cassidy were out there in Ishii's corner, both members of the Chaos faction. It was good to see Orange Cassidy. He has been out injured. And Tony Khan made the announcement recently that he was asked about it. And he said that he was actually pretty seriously injured, I think, on that rough bump that he took in the ladder match or Revolution. I don't know if it's a concussion or some kind of injury to an arm or a leg. He was out there tonight, though, in his corner, so he didn't look physically injured. It may have been a concussion issue, but he's not cleared. He's not able to wrestle, but it was good to at least see him out there. Cole rolled to the outside early, and Ishii followed him, and Ishii chopped Cole. Ishii went for a chop and then struck the ring post by accident when Cole ducked out of the way. Cole threw him into the guardrail, and back in the ring, Ishii fired up, and he hit Cole with a forearm that dropped him to the mat. Ishii hit a power slam and a backdrop suplex for 2. Back from the first picture-in-picture break, Ishii hit a suplex off the middle rope, then went for the sliding lariat, but Cole avoided it. Pulled down the knee pad, went for the boom, but Ishii avoided that. And on his second try, he did finally connect with the sliding lariat. He went for the pin, Cole kicked out. Ishii went for the brainbuster, but Cole reversed into an Ushi-Goroshi right across the knee. Only got a 2 count. Cole tried for the Panama Sunrise. Ishii avoided it, and Cole hit a leaping enziguri. Ishii countered with one of his own, and we got a double down. Both guys laid out. Once they made it back to their feet, Ishii mowed him down with a lariat. Here comes Jay White. Switchblade Jay White out to the ring, taking out Rocky Romero, throwing him into the ring steps, and then leaving. And this distracted Ishii, who was looking at the entranceway. This apparently also distracted the referee, who I guess was off gazing at the fucking North Star in the sky. I don't know what the referee was looking at or how he was occupied, but that allowed Adam Cole to hit a low blow on Ishii. And then he hit the ropes and came off and lowered the boom for the 1-2-3. And so Adam Cole wins the match. He qualifies by virtue of this win for the Owen Hart Cup. Not a surprise on the finish. Ishii is probably on his way back to Japan. They gave him time to shine. The two of them I thought had a fun match, and it was just a very, very small taste of what is to come at the Forbidden Door show in June. Now, somebody in the chat was there he is, DHV. DHV Smoking Trees. This is his favorite week of the year. Tickets go on sale. He wants to know, when do tickets go on sale for the Forbidden Door? May 6th. May 6th. So if that's something that you're interested in finding out, if you want to pick up tickets to the show, which are going to go very quickly, 11 a.m. on May 6th. I think it's 11 a.m. Eastern on May 6th is when tickets go on sale. Backstage, we saw the Jericho Appreciation Society. Jericho was trying to bully one of the security guards into allowing the entire group into the building for Daniel Garcia's match later against Eddie Kingston. If you remember, both groups of friends, Eddie's alliance with Santana and Ortiz, all the Jericho people, are barred from the building for this match tonight. And Jericho is trying to weasel his way in, and they wouldn't let him in. This was a rare instance of the security guard, in this case, kudos to this guy, standing his ground, not being made to look like a geek, laying down the law. Jim Dotson would be proud. So Jericho ended up stomping off somewhere. They were not allowed into the building. Backstage, Lexi Nair tried to get a word with Hook when the two of them looked up as they were about to walk into, I guess, the locker room, Hook's locker room. And there's Danhausen. And Danhausen had taken Hook's bag of chips and had strewn them all over the... I didn't get a sense of if they were potato chips. It almost looked like popcorn. But it was chips. And all the chips were strewn all over the floor. And Hook grabbed him, and he pushed him up against the wall, got up in his face, and he said, "You want my attention? You got it." And he walked off. He speaks. Hook has spoken. I love how for months now, even going back to when he would just be standing in the background with Team Taz, for months and months and months, we have never heard Hook, to my knowledge, we have never heard Hook on the show before, actually speak. He has not said a word. He has been a mute, like Goldberg was for so many months at the beginning of his undefeated run. They would try to interview him. Gene Okerlund would try to interview him, and he would just look at him and walk off, and nobody knew anything about Bill Goldberg. He was almost like this mysterious guy, right? We didn't have Wikipedia to go run to at the time to find out, who is this guy? So all these months that Hook didn't say a word, Danhausen messes with his chips, and Hook throws him against the wall and says his first words. And I think the moral of the story here is don't mess with a man's chips. Lance Archer against Serpentico. Archer destroyed him in about a minute, pinned him after hitting the blackout, gave him a choke slam after the match was over. This was a warm-up squash. You know, they're setting up Archer to lose to Wardlow on Dynamite this Wednesday. They've dusted off Lance Archer and Jake Roberts. When was the last time we saw Lance Archer? I guess it would have been the Texas Death Match 2 months ago. Is the last time we saw Lance Archer on any of the main shows. And before that, I couldn't even tell you when. So they need a big guy for Wardlow to go in there and beat. Let's dust him off. We'll give him some shine here on Rampage this week. We'll put him in there with Slinky. He picks up the win. I think it's the only win that Lance Archer is going to be picking up in the next week. Eddie Kingston against Daniel Garcia. All of their friends, as I mentioned before, banned from ringside. Always in my mind, it says Hook spoke last year in an AEW segment addressing Brian Cage last year. Surprised nobody remembers that. I have no memory of that whatsoever. Hook was that on one of the main shows or was that on Dark? Clearly, if he said something, it was very quick and in passing. Yeah, and there was the Archer match with Dustin Rhodes, but when was that? When was the Dustin Rhodes match with Archer? It wasn't in the last few weeks. The point is, we don't see Lance Archer on TV very often. When they have a need for him, or somebody big they want to put in there that he could lose to, then all of a sudden he pops up. So Kingston took the fight to the floor. He whipped Garcia into the barricade and the ring steps. And Kingston missed the charge, collided with the stairs. Garcia took control at that point. Back inside, Garcia worked over Kingston in the corner with forearms. He bit him on the head. Kingston came back and he bit Garcia on the ear. Fight went to the floor again. Garcia sent Kingston into the ring post. They went to break. We come back from break. Kingston went for an exploder. Garcia elbowed his way out. Landed a German suplex for 2. Garcia applied a sharpshooter, but Kingston made it to the ropes for a break. Back to their feet, Kingston hit an enziguri before hitting an exploder. Hit a backdrop and the spinning back fist for the 1-2-3. Eddie Kingston picks up the win. After the match, Kingston took off his belt. Didn't use it on Garcia. He kind of whipped the mat. He did not whip Garcia. He took the mic. He spoke into the camera. He was directing this at Chris Jericho. And he said that he was saving this whipping for Jericho. He says, this was just a message. Send it to your boss. This was a pretty tame match. If you look at how Kingston has sort of just been out of his mind, hoping to get his hands on Jericho and all of his goons. I expected more, more fire, more of a beatdown out of Eddie Kingston than we got here. You know, the way he's been talking about wanting to get his hands on all the members of the Jericho Society. Otherwise, though, I thought the match was okay. You know, I'm surprised they didn't throw one of the 2.0 boys in there. That they had they had Garcia go in there and lose. You know, it probably would have been a better spot to put, Matt or Matt or Jeff. I mean, that's their names, right? Matt and Jeff. But it probably would have been a better spot to put one of them in there than Garcia. That kind of surprised me. Tony Schiavone was in the back to interview Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. And Keith Lee said that he wants to annihilate Team Taz. Basically, that's what he said. Swerve called Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs Calvin and Hobbs and said that they may have won the battle, but the war is not over. So then they cut back to commentary. Starks, of course, does commentary on Rampage. Hobbs all of a sudden was standing right behind the announcers. And Ricky Starks called them a broke-ass Keenan and Kel and said that he and Hobbs have a check with their names written on it and they plan to cash out. So the issue continues between these four men. After a break, we were back yet again with Tony Schiavone, who is with Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Tony Storm, all of whom have qualified so far for the women's Owen Hart Cup tournament. Britt started talking, and thankfully, she didn't talk for, they didn't let her talk for as long as she did on Wednesday. That was not her best work. She started talking, Tony cut her off and told Hayter that she would see her in the opening round of the tournament, and then told Britt maybe she would see her if she made it deep into the tournament. That was it. Not much to this. And this was over in a flash. Not a lot to this at all. Then we got to the main event. It was Jade Cargill searching for her 30th win in AEW. Undefeated, defending her TBS championship here on TNT. Against the undefeated 6-0 Marina Shafir. They have not spent enough time establishing Shafir on television before getting a title match, so she comes out to crickets. Nobody cares. And even during the match, you know, she was working hard. And, well, I'll let you know what I thought about the match here in a second. But, again, nobody cared because they just have not established her enough. You know, giving her 6 straight wins on Dark, that's nice and all, but not a lot of people watch Dark. Not enough people watch Dark to where she's going to walk out and everybody is going to know, wow, this woman is a real force to be reckoned with here, you know, because they haven't seen too much of her work. And frankly, what they have seen, it hasn't exactly blown people away. So she came out, she didn't get much of a reaction at all. Jade clotheslined her out of the ring, and while Mark Sterling had the referee distracted on the inside, Jade got her up against the barricade over by her baddies section in the front row, and they all took shots at her, including Red Velvet. And it is very weird to see Red Velvet, for all the time that she feuded with Jade, and Jade just bullied her and beat her up and everything, to see her just, you know, basically be one of her lackeys now. You know, a stooge for her after they spent all of that time feuding is still very weird. Back in the ring, Jade countered out of a guillotine with I thought, a cool-looking power slam, heading into the final picture-in-picture. Back from the break, Jade had Shafir in an abdominal stretch. Marina, though, countered out of it and applied a knee bar. Jade got to the bottom rope for the break. Shafir wrapped Jade's knee around the ring post, and Jade fell out of the ring. Then she took Mark Sterling over with a judo throw. So Shafir, at this point, she was in full control of this match. Shafir was distracted by the baddies throwing popcorn at her in the front row, and so she was looking at them. And then into camera frame comes Jade Cargill. It just absolutely destroys her with a pump kick and takes her down, and then she chokeslammed Shafir onto the timekeeper's table, and Shafir, the back of her head, really smacked that table. And there was about a second or so, there was a delayed table break, and the table did collapse. That looked like a rough bump for her to take. Jade lifted her back into the ring and tried to pin her with a boot on her chest, but Shafir grabbed her leg and applied a heel hook. Jade kicked her way out of it and then hit the Jaded for the win to retain her title. This was not a bad match. Both women worked hard. They put together what I thought was a good match. This was better than I expected it to be, but I will say that if I have one critique of Jade Cargill, and it was really noticeable here in this match, especially towards the end with all the knee bars and everything that Shafir was doing to her. The one criticism that I have, she needed to sell the leg more. I think that Jade Cargill is getting noticeably better. Every time I see her on television, every time they build her up for a big match, We know that she's been working behind the scenes with Bryan Danielson. I think he's a fantastic person for anybody to learn from. But to me, it is noticeable the improvement a little bit more and a little bit more each time. She's still very inexperienced. She's growing into the role. She looks the part. She's not there yet as far as I think hitting her peak of how good she could be in the ring. But I think if you don't acknowledge the fact that she is getting a little bit better each time, I don't know. It just seems to me like some blind bias, I think, towards her. Yeah, she is green. She is inexperienced. Nobody is denying that. But I do see little improvements here and there, new things that she's incorporating, I think, into her matches. But the one thing that she really, I think, has to work on, that as a fan, I watched this and it was, glaring to me, for all of the working over of the knee and the leg, she would just get right back up. And there was no selling of the leg or anything, anything like that. So I think she definitely, as far as her game is concerned, I think she definitely has to work more on that. But, for all the criticism that Tony Khan gets, and look, some of it is rightfully deserved when it comes to the way that certain people and the women are booked on television, or some of the bigger names that he has signed who show up and then they disappear for weeks at a time. There's a lot of valid criticisms that you could lob at him, but they gave the women the main event here on this show. They had the main event spotlight. I thought they delivered a match that was, a lot better than I expected it to be. So, kudos to the both of them. They had pyro shootout from the ring post after that was dollar bills. I don't know if they were real or not, but money flew everywhere. I couldn't tell if it was Jade money or actual dollar bills they stuffed in there. But that's the new gimmick, I guess. Or you know what? It was just a celebration, I guess, for the big 30th win. They had money shoot out from the ring posts. So that was Rampage. Dynamite on Wednesday is in Philadelphia. They have a full card here. Serena Deeb, one-on-one, settle the score once and for all with Hikaru Shida. They're going to have a Philadelphia street fight. Wardlow against Lance Archer. Sammy Guevara defends the TNT title in a ladder match against Scorpio Sky. We have a 10-man tag, Adam Cole, Red Dragon, and the Young Bucks against Dante Martin, Varsity Blondes, Lee Johnson, and Brock Anderson. And Dax Harwood, one-on-one with Cash Wheeler, the one and only time that we will ever see FTR face off against each other. This is according to FTR. We'll be on Dynamite this Wednesday. If it were me, I think that this is a match I would have had these two meet up in the quarterfinal. I don't know how big the bracket is going to be. The quarterfinals, the semifinals, that would have been a great semifinal match in that tournament. Because you have two guys, and they had a brief video package on the show tonight acknowledging how important the Hart family was to them and how they, studied them, not just Brett, but Owen as well. And being in this tournament means so much to them. And there could have been some unpredictability then in terms of who's going to advance, who's going to go on. That's why I also say maybe the quarterfinals, right? If you don't want them to go to the finals, one of them wins, goes to the semis, loses there. I almost feel like it would have been better off to have them in the tournament. But it's going to be a qualifier, and I think that match is going to be fucking fantastic, especially if they give it some time. So I am very much looking forward to that match. And I know there are some people who think maybe Brett will be there. Bret Hart will, surely make an appearance, even if it's just to help present the trophy, the cup to the winners. Or maybe he'll be in the corner of FTR or something, or be there for the match. Based on what Meltzer said in The Observer this week, it does not look like Brett will have anything to do at all with the tournament, with Double or Nothing, where the finals are going to be held. It was questionable to begin with. He is not on the best of terms with Martha Hart. I'm not even sure that he has any kind of interaction at all with his niece and nephew. It's very sad how that worked out. They had a falling out, a very bitter falling out many years ago, and I'm not aware of them speaking at all or being on speaking terms now. And Brett has said some, look, Brett speaks his mind. And Brett calls it like he sees it. He's made his thoughts on people like Eric Bischoff and Bill Goldberg very clear. But he's also said some pretty nasty things about Martha. So my guess is, unless there's been some kind of private reconciliation that we are not aware of, They don't speak. So it was a question whether or not he would be there anyway. But Meltzer in The Observer this week mentioned the fact that the talk, the belief amongst those in AEW, nothing official has been announced, but the belief is that Bret Hart just recently was offered and signed I guess what would have been a Legends deal. I thought he already had one, but he signed some kind of a contract. Maybe it's more than a Legends deal, but he signed some kind of a contract with WWE. Very convenient timing, by the way, if that's true, that WWE would offer Bret Hart suddenly a new contract of some kind. That clearly would bar him from having anything to do with AEW. So that is the belief, that Bret is not going to have anything to, and that's why I announced on the podcast, I read the news item on Sunday, that Bret is going to be managing FTR for the first and probably the only time at a independent show, at a big time wrestling house show in Massachusetts on June 10th. And it's like, well, why would they do it there and not do it in AEW? Wouldn't that make more sense? Well, that's why. If AEW was of the impression that Bret signed with WWE and is not available, then they couldn't do it. But evidently the deal that Bret has does allow him to work indie shows, which is why he's able to manage FTR on that show. So, it's disappointing that he won't have any involvement, but again, the nature of the relationship or lack thereof with Bret and Martha and her kids probably has something to do with why he wouldn't be a part of it. And look, if Bret got a lucrative contract from WWE to sign, then more power to him. Let him get that money. He's 64 years old. He's enjoying his retirement. If WWE wants to throw some money at him, hey, I can't say that I blame the guy. But I would not look for Bret to have anything to do with this tournament. Now, I mentioned Dante Martin a moment ago. He's going to be in that 10-man tag on Dynamite coming up this Wednesday. On the Dynamite recap the other night, 2 nights ago, I know a lot of you in the chat right now were with me live on Wednesday night. If you remember, I wondered when I ran down the matches coming up at the end of the stream, I posed the question. I said, what the hell happened to Darius Martin? Because we saw Dante on Wednesday, no Darius. He was in a tag match. And then they announced that Dante was going to be in another tag match in this 10-man tag coming up next week. And we see Dante Martin, but no Darius. And Darius recently came back, Top Flight reunited. Why would they not be together? And Brady Solomonster also wants to know why. As I blow my friend away there with my, what is that, Tommy gun? That's not a Tommy gun. It's a machine gun. That was Corbin Rogers with the $50 super chat drop. Amazing. Thank you, brother. I will be reading your super chat, everyone else's, here in just a moment. Well, I have an update. The reason I bring this up is I have an update on Darius Martin. And but I was wondering on Wednesday, is he hurt? Is he hurt again? The answer apparently is yes. Unfortunately, according to Fightful, they are reporting that Darius sustained an injury recently and is currently sidelined. Those that Fightful has spoken to expect him to miss a lengthy period of time from the ring yet again. This kid just came back weeks ago from a torn ACL. He missed an entire year. He came back. He wrestled a grand total of 11 matches. And now he is hurt again. And apparently is going to be out for a long time. That sucks. That sucks. Darius took to Twitter to say this. He didn't exactly deny the report from Fightful, but he said, what I'm currently dealing with had nothing to do with wrestling. But I'm glad that everyone else out there seems to know more about my health than I do. He didn't say he wasn't hurt. He only said that whatever happened, the reason why he is out, has nothing to do with wrestling. Maybe he was in a car accident. Maybe he tripped and fell at home. We don't know. So again, he didn't exactly deny the report. Sean Ross Sapp is holding firm. He's not retracting the report. He says it's accurate. So whatever it is, though, it does sound like it's probably going to be a while before we see Darius back in the ring. And, it's tough. He had a torn ACL. Hopefully it's not a leg injury or a re-aggravation or a re-tear, because that's a serious injury. I mean, if they're saying he's going to be gone for a long time, I mean, that's a significant injury. And I don't want to speculate beyond what I've already said. We'll find out in due time exactly what the hell happened. But Dante Martin, I guess, is back on his own yet again for a while. So, again, sucks for Darius. Let's check the poll. SmackDown poll. Well, that's a well-deserved 18%. Thumbs up for SmackDown tonight. 29% thumbs in the middle. And a whopping 53% of you have given tonight's SmackDown show a thumbs down. Again, a very well-deserved thumbs down. I just thought it was a boring show. Nothing more to say. Over on Rampage, 62.5% thumbs up, 24% thumbs in the middle, and 13% thumbs down. If you would like to cast your vote, these polls go up after every show. You can chime in, leave a comment as well. I do read through them all. At Solomonster on Twitter. That is the place to go for that. And actually, before we get into the Super Chats, Rye Baker says he just became a Sound Off member, but he's been a member. He's been a Sound Off superstar for 3 months. What was your favorite wrestling event that you have ever been to live? I think I've mentioned before the Ring of Honor show back in 2000 and... Oh, God, was it 6 or was it 7? I don't remember the year now. It might have been 2009. It was Glory by Honor 5, Night 2. Ring of Honor show at the Manhattan Center. Very memorable show. I had a lot of fun that night. But before I get into your Super Chats, again, quick plug here. The latest edition of Sound Off Gamer, My Rise edition, went up earlier this week. Solomonster attacks Hulk Hogan in Japan. Look at this guy. Look at this jabroni. I'm sorry, brother. As I rain blows down upon this man. Somebody left a message the other day. They said Solomonster did it for the culture. I said, that's right. I did it for the culture. If you want to see me lay the smackdown on Hulk Hogan, then this is the video for you. So go back if you missed it and check it out. That was probably the most entertaining My Rise episode yet. And hopefully in the next few days, I'll have the 4th one. I'm looking forward to that. I'm enjoying it. It's been so long since I've had the chance to get back to Sound Off Gamer. And now that, I have the new system and everything here, the new laptop and everything, and it plays perfectly, in Steam and everything, and I'm able to play it and get back into it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm learning. I'm like Jade Cargill. I'm learning on the job. I'm learning as we go along. It's more fun now. I think it's more entertaining now. It's like, I'm like a little baby bird, that's hatched, and it doesn't quite know how to walk yet. It's kind of wobbling around a little bit, bumping into things. I'm like a little baby bird playing these games. That's the analogy that I would use. All right, let's go ahead and just read through some of your Super Chats here. I do thank you all for your support, your continued support each and every week here on these streams. Naif Alsafar, thank you for the double Super Chat, my friend, Naif. Opening things up for us tonight. Matthew Dinkins, $9.99 Super Chat. What if at the Forbidden Door, the main event would be an 8-man tag, Team New Japan against Team AEW, being represented by the 4 pillars, with New Japan doing the job? That's not going to happen. And that would be, that would not be a main event. I think that would make people very happy. That's not the main event that I would do. I will actually be getting a lot deeper into some of the potential matchups when I talk about this on Sunday. But the other night I mentioned, I think that if they're going to do a singles match in the main event, the likeliest match, I think, because they've already teased it months ago, these two, would be Okada against Punk. Okada against Danielson, though, is the match that I want to see. I think if it's not Okada and Punk, I think we might get a tag team main event on that show. And the other match that I could see as the main event would be Okada and Tanahashi as a team against the Blackpool Combat Club. That could be the main event if they don't go with a singles match. It could be Okada and Tanahashi, who, if you remember, were a tag team in the main event of the New Japan Noah joint show earlier this year, Wrestle Kingdom Night 3. It could be those two against Moxley and Bryan Danielson. Moxley and Tanahashi are wrestling each other at a New Japan show next month in DC. There's an issue there. I would love, that would be a fantastic main event too. You do those, put those four guys in the ring together. So that's my early prediction of what we might get. Because remember, everyone's talking about singles matches. I mean, you look at that New Japan Noah joint show they did in January. There was one singles match on the entire show, and it was an undercard match. It was all tag team matches. Now, I think if it was all tag team matches, it would be underwhelming. But I definitely expect that a lot of this card is probably going to be comprised of tag team matches. And that's in part, I think, to protect certain people from losing in one-on-one matches. But again, no matches have been officially announced yet. So we'll have to wait and see. DHV Smoking Trees, they really blew it by not making Dax against Cash in a semifinal or quarter. Well, there you go. I was just talking about that before. I agree. I think it would have been cool to have them actually in the tournament and see who's going to move on to the next round. Samoan fan, SmackDown sucks. It's almost as bad as Raw. Well, Roman Reigns, he's the one who said it. That's the exact quote from Roman. You hear it in the sound-off intro every week. Flamethrower Fluff Salisbury dropping $5 super chat. That first SmackDown was so boring. They're probably having to do the Thunderdome monitors for the second taping. I feel bad for those people, but hey, they bought their ticket. They knew what they were getting themselves into. Alex Jimenez, you're out of touch. I'm out of time, but I'm out of my head when you're not around. My favorite song. My favorite song of all time. Shin Akuma, thank you for the $5, my friend. Juan Ocampo. Juan Ocampo with the $5 super chat. Hey, Quantum TV, stop abusing the copyright system. I'll be at the United Center this Sunday for Game 4 of the Bulls and the Bucks. I hope it's CM Punk returning loud. Well, enjoy the game. My Mets are playing, or at least they were. They're out west, so we got the late games coming up here now. Elijah Ricard, $9.99 super chat. Love the show as always, Solomonster. Just a quick question: are we ever going to get a WrestleMania roundtable again with me and the boys? Possibly. We'll see. Yeah, we did those when we were at WrestleMania, and we don't go to WrestleMania anymore, so that's why they pretty much came to it. And then COVID, and we weren't, in the same place at the same time. I think at some point we'll do something together again. Maybe not even for WrestleMania, maybe for something else. We'll see. Sean Waters with the $5 super chat. Hey, thanks for the advice earlier. Officially getting people together for the Forbidden Door instead of Hell in a Cell. You are welcome. I think you're going to have a lot of fun at that show. Dom Joseph. Hey, Solomonster, you and Steven Larson are the goats of podcasting. Thank you, Dom Joseph. Steven Larson are great. They're good people. Tell them I said hi. Steven Escalante Gonzalez. His great-grandmother passed away. I'm very sorry to hear that. Very, very sorry to hear about your great-grandmother. My condolences to you. I hope this stream can at least try to take your mind off it for a little bit. But again, very sorry to hear that. French Fry Slut with the $5 super chat. I've been practicing my editing skills on TikTok, and you just reminded me that I need to make a Solomonster edit. I will tag you when I am finished with it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Should I be worried? I feel like I should be worried about this. Joseph Brooks. Buy or sell on who deserved a world title more in these specific years. Dean Ambrose in early 2016 or Samoa Joe in 2018? Was it 2018? He had the Great Balls of Fire match with Brock in 2017, right? I believe it was 2017. I don't remember what Joe was doing in 2018. I would go, oh gosh, I would probably say Ambrose, just because I think that might be a year removed from when I think Joe should have gotten the belt. Ambrose was pretty over at the beginning of 2016. I'll go with Ambrose, but there was a period where Joe absolutely could have gotten a run with that title and should have. They really dropped the ball by not doing that. Marcus Robinson Johnson, Taz must be so proud. His baby boy finally spoke his first words. He's a proud papa. Corbin Rogers with that $50 drop from earlier. You are the Super Chat king of the night, my friend. Corbin, that's right. Sasha Banks, perfect timing on the screen with the thumbs up for Corbin. Hey, Doge, wow, pow. Just subscribe to the channel. And he got a welcome from Sasha Banks. I mean, how cool is that? Doesn't get any better than that, does it? Corbin says, we are partying in my garage here in Tennessee, and only like 5 out of 20 here are wrestling fans. And I said you would give us a shout out, so let's go! Holy shit, he's got 20 people in his garage partying in Tennessee. What is the occasion? He didn't say what the exact occasion was, but I will hold this. Nothing overly exciting here, but I will hold this glass up as I salute those 20 people who are rocking out right now with their cocks out in that garage in Tennessee. And if I were there right now, if I was in Tennessee, I know that I would have a standing invitation to be in that garage right now. I know that I'd be getting an invite from you. But I am not in Tennessee. I'm pretty damn far, actually, from Tennessee right now. Bearwolf says, did the professor get whacked? I think he did. Unfortunately, I think Professor John Gotti got whacked. You know, he should have known, when you go into the restaurant, you got to sit with your back up against the wall. And I think he made the cardinal sin. He had his back turned, and I think they whacked him. Now he's buried in the cement somewhere under some kind of a building somewhere. We'll probably never see him again. Very sad. I hope the professor is doing well wherever he is. DHV Smoking Trees. When Archer loses, can MJF hire Captain Insano? Well, Paul White has said Captain Insano is coming back to TV. Part of me wonders if Captain Insano will have some involvement with Hook and Danhausen. I don't know. Paul Timus just subscribed to the channel. What's up, Paul? Hanging out with us on a Friday night. Even though SmackDown was a fucking bore fest. We probably have more fun here on this stream than we did watching SmackDown tonight. That's right, Bearwolf. They buried the professor right next to Jimmy Hoffa. Side by side. The same plot. They buried them together. Kevin Henry, what are your early 2022 Super Bowl predictions? Well, wouldn't that be 2023, technically? Here's my Super Bowl prediction. The Giants will not win and the Jets will not win. That is my Super Bowl prediction. EJ Slimp, $4.99. Do you think we will ever see a blood and guts match between the 5 AEW pillars and the 5 Ring of Honor Hall of Famers? No. I don't believe that we will. I don't think so. We have Marcus the Entertainer, Full Gear. Had 2 women's matches with 2 champions in the Owen Cup final. How many will Double or Nothing have? Well, let's see here. You said Full Gear had 2 women's matches with 2 champions in the Owen Cup final. How many will Double or Nothing have? Probably 3. Well, I mean, we don't know that both titles will be defended on that show, but if I had to venture a guess, honestly, I would probably say that we will end up, probably two. I think we'll have a women's title match and the Owen Cup final. I'm not sure we're going to have a TBS title match also on that show. You know, there is a limit to how many matches they should be doing, and I just feel like they're going to flood it with just a bunch of other, men's matches. So my guess would be we'll end up with two women's matches, one early in the card and one a little bit later in the card. Ricky Edmond, better heel out of these top three Attitude Era guys: Austin, Rock, or Triple H? That's tough because Rock to me was the most entertaining. I mean, Austin was pretty damn entertaining when he was doing the comedy stuff, but that was a relatively brief period of time. Heel Rock in the Nation, corporate Rock was fantastic. Hollywood Rock, although I guess that doesn't count as Attitude Era. Triple H, it's tough because Triple H, 2000 Triple H into 2001, he was a pretty damn good heel. But to me, the most entertaining heel was Rock. I would go with Rock. Rock was the one that I liked the most. So yeah, I would probably go with him. Off Leather Wings with the $4.99 just came back from the indie show CCW Wrestling. Gangrel defeated Jacob Fatu in a no DQ match with a Canadian Destroyer. Well, I mean, everybody does it now, so I guess it doesn't really surprise me, right? Dustin Rhodes does it. All the old guys now, like the Destroyer is the move that they know. If they could pull it off, it'll always get a pop. Ricky Morton. I don't know if he's still doing it, but Ricky Morton, just a couple of years ago, was hitting Destroyers in his matches. 62-year-old Ricky Morton. So, it's an easy pop. If you can pull it off safely, it's an easy pop. EJ Slemp, how many times have you... I think he meant gone to MSG. That wasn't for wrestling. And which pro sports New York City arena or stadium have you been to the most? I was probably at Shea Stadium the most. Citi Field, obviously I've been there a bunch of times, but I think Shea, well, I've probably been to Shea more than Citi. Citi's still kind of new to me. I mean, I guess the stadium's been around over a decade now, but it's still kind of new to me. I've been to MSG before for a Hall & Oates concert. That was the one I talked about on the podcast a couple of years ago, where we had Train. It was really a Train concert disguised as a Hall & Oates concert. It was Train featuring Hall & Oates, even though that's not what was advertised. Shin Akuma. Kenny Omega not being a part of Forbidden Door feels like the RVD situation at One Night Stand. I'm sure Omega would like to be a part of this. I think Omega will be a part of it. I think Omega walking out, not wrestling, but walking out at the end of the show to confront Kazuchika Okada. Share a stare with Okada and tease one more match in the future between the two of them would be the perfect way for that show to go off the air. So there's no doubt in my mind Omega will be there, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be wrestling. Anti-M Bishop with the $20 super chat drop. Anti-M Bishop, look at this, bringing the ammunition here. Sup Solomonster skipped SmackDown for AEW tonight. Boy, like everybody skipped SmackDown for a bunch of indie shows. Pretty solid show. Great job beating up Hulk in 2K22. Iron Sheik is pleased. I did it for the Sheik. Rampage was good. Lastly, the last two Hog shows are not on Fight so far. Bummed, all the best. Well, they did air on Fight. Actually, there will be some news about the most recent Hog show that I think you'll be pleased with. Just wait a few days, and there might be something popping up for you. There's Cody Rhodes. Look at that. Mimicking the cupping of the ear. He was in the WWE headquarters when he did that in that super chat. Tito Lies. $1.99. Today is my birthday. I thought that said Olaf for a second. Then I saw all the other A. He's saying holla. I thought I was about to I was about to say hola. Feliz cumpleaños. Or Tito lies. Everybody wish Tito a happy birthday in the chat. Happy birthday, Tito. Corbin Rogers dropping another $9.99. It's a Friday in Tennessee, so that's what we do. But you got a loud cheer and a couple of shotgun beers for it. Yeah, you know what? You don't really need much of a reason, I guess, on a Friday night to just celebrate. That's a good point. That used to be me on Friday nights. Now I'm streaming every Friday night. So back when I wasn't doing the live streams on Fridays, I would be doing the same thing, and I wouldn't need any excuse other than it's the weekend. What more excuse do you need? So no. What are you drinking? That's the question. What kind of beer are you drinking? Are you drinking some of those Stone Cold lagers? Do they sell those? Are they available where you are? Because I can't find them anywhere over here. I think I'm gonna have to drive out to Long Island somewhere to go find one. Steven Gonzalez, if Triple H was in control, would he do Forbidden? He would be forbidden from doing Forbidden. So I don't think if Triple H was in charge, he had some level of control for a while when New Japan was hot, and he didn't do it. So no. Let's see. Devin Garcia, $10 super chat. It was very noticeable on Wednesday night how painfully fast Excalibur was reading down the match lineups that I actually noticed he took his time tonight reading them down. Well, I hope so, because I've been pointing this out now for many, many weeks. And it's ridiculous. You know, and it's not even his fault. They only give him so much time. He's up against the clock. And you can barely process any of the matches that he's announcing. They don't have any impact. Jamin John, despite being the biggest draw of 2000, why did The Rock lose so many matches during that time? He lost in 3 back-to-back WrestleManias. And he even tapped out to Chris Benoit during a televised match. Because The Rock was a lot more giving than other people were at that time. I think I've actually made the comment before. I've said that Rock is probably... I think Rock and Jericho, both. But Rock was just a bigger name. Rock is probably the most giving headliner when it came to doing jobs that I can remember. Austin was the opposite. I mean, Austin was on fire at his peak, and I'm not saying that Austin should have been losing a lot, because the reason he was so over is probably because he didn't lose very often. Austin was not nearly as giving as Rock was. A lot of main eventers, frankly, were not. At a time when Rock really, I think, if he didn't want to be, didn't have to be. And Jericho, but I say Jericho's another one who also lost probably more than he should have. Why? In terms of why, they wanted him to. It's very simple. They probably thought he was Teflon and he could lose and it wouldn't affect him. And guess what? They were right. They were right. DHV Smoking Trees. Buy, sell, or rent on these things that you hate the most. Avocados, brie mode, or innocent coral reefs. Probably avocados. I'm not even going to rank them. I'm just going to say avocados. Paul Heyman. Can we take a second to appreciate that last Wednesday on 420, we got an announcement of a joint show? You son of a bitch. You know, I didn't even realize that. Didn't even realize it. Paul Heyman. Bob the Builder. CM Punk in House of Glory. I'm all for it. Fine with me. We can make it happen. I would love to call a CM Punk match. Marcus Robinson Johnson. Oh, that's an older one. Marcus the Entertainer. We got more than one Marcus here joining us today. Marcus the Entertainer, $5 super chat. I love the fact that all of The Rock's themes over the years are just remixes of the Nation of Domination theme. Also, why was The Rock so over at Breakdown in 98? He was very over at Breakdown that year. Got a huge ovation. I think that Breakdown show was in Canada, was it not? I believe it was up north. That was right around the time, that was post SummerSlam, after the ladder match with Triple H, and Rock was really starting to just take off as a babyface. And a couple months later, they turned him. He became the corporate champion and all that. Very, very rare. Very, very rare that WWE would have two baby faces as over, as white hot as Austin and Rock were at the same time. I mean, they would kill for one these days that's that over, let alone two at the same time. As far as why, was there a specific reason why? I don't think so. I think it was just coming out of that ladder match, he just started to get naturally over with the fans. They thought he was cool. They wanted to cheer him. And fuck Bully Ray, says the nihilist. The nihilist says, where do you see the Joe Lethal Gresham feud going? Also, what do you think the next Ring of Honor event will be? Khan mentioned that he wanted to run Ring of Honor shows on the weekends of AEW pay-per-views. The answer, honestly, to that is I just have no idea, and I don't think Tony Khan knows either. He has not yet figured out all the plans. His main plan right now, I think, just listening to him in interviews, is to secure television, weekly television for Ring of Honor. And there's no telling where that's going to be. It could be on a streaming service. It could be, I don't see it on a major network. But if he can work something out with Warner Media, again, maybe on a streaming service. Ring of Honor on HBO Max, it seems like a reach. I don't know that I see that happening. But when the pay-per-view would be, I don't think he even knows that yet. Those plans have not yet been worked out. Now, as far as Joe and Gresham and that angle, where is it going? I would have to think it's going to end with Joe, reigning supreme and winning out in the end. And what happens with Satnam Singh at that point? Do they keep the three of them together with him and, Sanjay and Jay Lethal? Probably. I think they want them to be a trio. Maybe they feel like those are two great guys that he could learn from, kind of, by osmosis. It's kind of how WWE put Omos with AJ Styles, and here we are now over a year later after that pairing, and Omos really isn't all that much better than he was at the beginning of that pairing. So I don't know how effective that was. Captain Insano is on TNT right now. Well, talk about great timing. Corbin Rogers, we have Stone Cold beer here, but I'm drinking Busch Light. All right, cool. So they have some of the American. Is it the American lagers or the IPA? I'm assuming it's that new American lager that he just came out with. Jamin John, thoughts on the recent Planet of the Apes movies? I did not see any of them, so I have no thoughts on the recent Planet of the Apes. EJ Slemp, why do you think AEW has not brought Morrow in? Maybe he doesn't want to come. Morrow had issues that he dealt with while he was working for NXT. It was not the best environment for him. AEW feels like it would be a very different environment. Maybe not as much pressure, but it's still a lot of pressure to do live television every single week. Morrow has been very public and open about his mental health issues in the past. Maybe it's just not the healthiest place for him to be doing live, wrestling television every single week. Impact brought him in, I think, for a pay-per-view one time, and that seemed to go well. I think it would be great if AEW brought him in maybe for special events and some of the pay-per-views, but what are you going to do? You're going to kick your regular rotation of announcers out just to give Morrow the spot on the pay-per-views? I mean, that's kind of a slap in the face to your main announcers. More than anything, I think it might just be that they don't have a spot for him. They just don't have a spot. And if Jim Ross one day decides that he's ready to hang it up and retire, then maybe I could see someone like Mauro Ranallo coming in. but it could just be as simple as there really is just no open spot for him. You know? The Nihilist, again, just mentioned him. Thank you for that $30 super chat. And DHV Smoking Trees with the $2. Says, are you or JD the heel announcer? Neither of us. We actually have a third announcer. This guy, he's such an evil prick. He thinks he's better than everybody. He's the Professor Dr. Hillary P. Wisdom. He's our third announcer. He's the heel of our trio. I am, of course, the natural babyface. I mean, in case you couldn't tell. I think I'm the only one without facial hair on that entire announce crew. Of course, I'm the babyface. Everybody else has the rat's nest on their face. Not me. I'm clean cut, baby. Clean cut babyface Solomonster. That's me. Clean cut babyface Solomonster is the best Solomonster. Unless you make him angry. Solomonster is too nice to be a heel. I don't know about that. Well, let's do some Be the Booker here. Let's see. Now, I'm a little afraid to do this because if you saw the matches I booked the other night, I'm almost ashamed. I thought of coming on the air tonight with a bag on my face. So I in my mind, it can't possibly be any worse, right? Right? There's no way that it could be worse. The matches that I booked tonight. Is it possible?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
It is time for Be the Booker. Hey, Ricky Edmond, thank you for that $5 super chat drop. Wants to know, did you think CM Punk's heel turn was justified in 2012? I did, actually. I did think it was justified. Solomonster books worse than Bruce. Oh, that honestly, that's probably the most offensive thing anybody has ever said to me. Well, let's see. Let's take her for a spin on a Friday night. We got a bunch of guys hanging out in a garage in Tennessee who can't wait to see what match we book right now. We start with Sheamus, the Celtic Warrior, former WWE Champion Sheamus. Pretty good start. I think Sheamus was the MVP for WWE in a lot of ways during that Thunderdome era. He is, I think, for all the years he's been in WWE, Sheamus is still very underrated by a lot of people. Sheamus goes in there, whether you think his character is boring or whatever, when he goes in there and has a match with someone and they give them time and like a pay-per-view match or something, or a long TV match, this guy delivers. So let's see who Sheamus is going to be stepping into the ring with here. Sheamus going one-on-one with Papa Shango. An interesting match, but I got to go with the buzzer on that one. I got to go with... Or do you think I was too trigger happy on the buzzer? What do you guys think? What do you think about that match? Sheamus against Papa Shango. I don't know. I think that's a styles clash there. I think that's not going to be such a great match. It is a very unique match, though. It's not a match I've really ever thought of before. Well, switch on over to the ladies. See how things go there. Yeah, we got some people in the chat who actually like it. The Irish Curse against Voodoo. Elijah says a good match for superstars in 1991. We begin with Linda McMahon. This was Linda McMahon's face an hour into SmackDown tonight. Right there on your screen. When the clock hit 9 o'clock, that was Linda McMahon's face watching this fucking boring show tonight. Many a Monday night watching Raw, that's been the same face that I've made. Well, let's see. I tell you, this women's Be the Booker, there's something going on here with some of these choices. Linda McMahon going one-on-one with Dixie Carter. I like that match. I am giving that the fucking bell right there. That ain't getting no buzzer. You can't tell me that you wouldn't be down to see Dixie Carter one-on-one with Linda McMahon on pay-per-view. That match is money right there. Holy shit. Dixie Carter against Linda McMahon. That may have been the best match I've booked so far in all these months. With two of the greatest photos of all time. Look how scared she looks. I don't think Dixie wants any part of Linda. I don't think she wants any part of Linda. That's the look of sheer terror on this woman's face. Well, what can I say? What can I say? What is there to say? What is there to say? Be the Booker continues to be an enigma here on these streams. We got Ricky Edmond with one more super chat here. Can I have your opinion? Can I have your opinion on why CM Punk's heel turn was justified? Did you not see CM Punk's run as the world champion in 2012? Every single pay-per-view, the man was relegated to second-class status on the show. John Cena against John Laurinaitis one month was the main event over CM Punk defending the WWE title. So for that reason alone, he had every reason to feel marginalized on the show. But then The Rock, of course, had a match with John Cena in his back pocket. He had the main event of WrestleMania already signed, sealed, and delivered for WrestleMania. Right? He had the match in 2012 with Cena, and we already knew that he was going to be wrestling in the main event the following year, even if they didn't already announce it like they did the year before. We all knew what the main event was really going to be at WrestleMania 29, and so did CM Punk. He knew that Dwayne was going to be in the WrestleMania main event. When he cut that pipe bomb promo, when he talked about Dwayne, and he talked about all this stuff, there was a lot of real shit in that promo in 2011. So then he finally wins the title, and in 2012, again, it's like he's getting the Chris Jericho run as champion. So yes, I think CM Punk was absolutely justified to feel the way that he did. There he is again. There he is. Devin Garcia. Dropping $2. Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes in enemy territory there. Devin says, Dixie against Linda, winner signs Hulk Hogan, brother. I still remember the image of Dixie Carter literally latched like a child, latched onto Hulk Hogan's leg. That was Hulk Hogan's final appearance on TNA television. Literally, basically saying, fuck you, I'm out of here. And walking out as the owner of the company, latched onto his, like she was humping his leg, begging the man, pleading with the man. Please don't leave. And he was actually leaving. It was the perfect, like the most TNA of conclusions to Hulk Hogan's career in that company. It was and I always said, when the inevitable death of TNA book was written, that should have been the cover. I will say, I had no idea that 10 years later, Impact would still be alive. There were many times where Impact looked like it was on death's door. And I said, when there's nuclear holocaust in the world, the only thing left will be the cockroaches and TNA wrestling. Impact Wrestling, whatever name it has at that point, I still believe that. Humanity will be just completely wiped out, but somehow Impact will still exist. There will still be somebody living on this planet wrestling for Impact. Impact will still somehow be in business as the roaches crawl around. Maybe the roaches will be the only thing left. It'll become a roach promotion. You'll have wrestling roaches in the audience, roaches at the announce desk with little headsets on them. That will be Impact Wrestling. The promotion will never die. Yes, and Twinkies. Twinkies will still exist as well. Punk as champion versus Bryan played second fiddle to Cena and Johnny Ace. Yes, I remember that well. In fact, I that was Over the Limit was the name of that pay-per-view. They had a great match on that show. Temjin says, have that bug from Family Guy run Impact. That's going to be the new Impact president. That'll be the new Dixie. It'll be the bug. I don't know, man. So, salute to them that they have lasted for this long. Because they certainly, their epitaph has been written many a time over the years. And even though it's a completely different company now, different regime and all that. I mean, Scott D'Amore was there at the beginning, I guess. But they've found a way to survive. Barely. Nobody really talks about them anymore. Not that they don't have talent. True talent that works for that promotion. They do. They have some very talented people who work for Impact, but it's just not a promotion that really has a lot of buzz these days. What is next for Kushida? New Japan. Just in time for the Forbidden Door. What a lucky guy, huh? His contract ending couldn't have come at a better time. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I want to thank you all for tuning in for tonight's stream and joining me, hanging out with me on a Friday night, a quiet Friday night. A little more tame, but still got a lot of people who filed on in tonight. And definitely hit that like button before you head out. Or if you're watching this on the archive, hit that like button. It still helps the video out a great deal. Leave a comment. We have Thunder Knight, who has been a channel member for 9 months. Says, which was worse, John Cena losing to John Laurinaitis or Kevin Federline? Anytime you lose to someone who's not a wrestler and has no business being in the ring, that's always going to trump somebody in the wrestling business. Look, Johnny Ace at least was at one time a wrestler. It's the best I could say about that. So yes, obviously the Kevin Federline loss is much worse. Follow me on Twitter, at Solomonster. You can vote in the polls. Rampage, 63% thumbs up as compared to SmackDown with a measly 18%. A nothing show tonight, if there ever was one. I'll be back with you live on Wednesday. That'll be my next live stream for Dynamite. I'm thinking that next Thursday might be a good time to bring out the next call-in show for channel members. So now would be a great time to become a channel member if you are not already one. Of course, Legends tier, the higher tier members have access to the retro audio. So far, the first 13 episodes that I have ever recorded of the Sound Off are now up for Legends tier members, and the original very first episode that me and Noah Mark ever did, the call-in show, SE Scoops Live, back in 2008. So as I work my way through the editing process on the other episodes, those will slowly be going up as well. But probably we'll shoot to do Better Call Solomonster next Thursday. I'll let you guys know. And back with you again next Friday. I believe next Friday is the final stream of the month of April. And I want to finish this month on a strong note. So Casey Rose just subscribed. Casey, I hope you're joining us next week as well. We will finish the month off on a high note. DHV Smoking Trees, $10 super chat. You get the last question, my friend. Can you explain the For Dummies version of how ratings work? I don't understand how they can tell the age and sex and such, or how many. It just seems like an impossible stat. It's a small sample size, and they glean a lot of information based on geography and other metrics. There is no For Dummies version. I cannot possibly, in the span of 30 seconds, condense. And I know I've covered this on the podcast, so I just wish I knew the episode number. I would tell you to go back, and I gave more of a detailed explanation once. I think it was in a mailbag. And it actually wasn't even that long ago. It might have been a few months ago. But anyway, yeah, I there's no way for me to adequately condense that into a short answer for you. But I know it seems impossible, and it probably doesn't even seem like a fully representative picture if you're just kind of gleaning this information from a relatively small sample size. But the ratings are not the easiest thing to understand. So it's the best answer I could give you right now. How is Noah? Noah is fine. He's alive. He's breathing. He's alive. He was the one responsible for making me watch the double wedding segment on Raw Monday night, which I was probably going to skip. Then on Tuesday, he says, "Have you watched Raw yet?" I go, "Not yet." He goes, "Well, make sure you watch the commitment ceremony segment." I said, "Okay." And then I did. And now he and I are no longer on speaking terms. So I'll see you guys on Sunday. Episode 753. Top story. We're going to have a lot to say about the Forbidden Door and people's reaction to the Forbidden Door and some of the most horrible brain-dead takes that I have been seeing on social media and in this online wrestling community, which is filled with so many stupid people, far more stupid people than I knew even existed in this community. And I knew there were some dumb ones, but holy shit. And these are people in some cases with platforms and voices. That's what makes it so scary. There are a lot of dumb people in this community of wrestling. I can't even call them fans. I don't even know what you would call them. Clowns, lunatics. A lot of idiotic takes I've seen this week. I should put the clown music on. I wish I had a key. I may have to program it for future reference. That way we can play some clown music as we go out of here. Austin, I know exactly who you're talking about, and that's exactly who I'm thinking of too. I don't even know his name, but I think you and I are thinking of the exact same person. One of many. God, this community is filled with morons. All right, on that note, you'll want to tune in for 753 on Sunday. I'll see you guys then. Thank you, as always, for the support. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend. And I will see you back here live on Wednesday for the Dynamite stream. Take care, guys.